He just looks way better in pictures than I do. I look like a red glowing freak, and he always looks great. This is the Redefine Real Estate Podcast. Today, I am so honored. I'm so honored to introduce Ronnie from the Ronnie A Team. To give you an example of why I'm so excited to have him here, when I asked him his career volume and units, he's like, I don't know, I'm sure we can look that up somewhere. The funny part of that is he's sold hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars in real estate. I mean, hundreds of transactions every year, because I did dive into your numbers a little bit.
Oh, thanks.
And just shows the class act that he is. He's such a humble guy, and his team just absolutely dominates. In fact, it's a little frustrating because they're in our market, and I always look at stats. Unlike you, I'm always like, where are we at? And they just completely smoke us. So we're coming for you eventually.
Let's go.
But Ronnie, thanks so much for coming out today. Really appreciate you having on the show, or have you coming out to get on the show today, if I can speak.
Totally excited. I was telling you prior, I've never done a podcast, believe it or not.
Look at that.
You know, I've done videos, you've seen my videos,
Yes.
but I've never done an actual sit down and let's podcast.
So what's fun about this is we sit down from time to time. We grab coffee, lunch, whatever.
Yep.
We've done it a few times. Every time we've crossed paths, I've enjoyed our conversations. Yeah. So the way I look at this podcast is we are very blessed in our business, in our marketplace, to have a lot of connections. I know you have a lot of connections.
Yeah.
And to work with a lot of people that, to me, have a lot of stories to tell on them. There's a lot of good takeaways from it and stuff. So the way I looked at this podcast is like, hey, let's just start having a conversation about real estate. Yeah. Whether you're in Michigan, across the country, you're in leadership, you're an agent, you're a mortgage broker, whatever it is. And I think there's always some good takeaways. I think it's fun, so we might as well record it and put add a little
I love it.
Add a little swag to it. So first and foremost, tell us about who you are, the brokerage, your team, all that good stuff.
So Ronnie from the Ronnie A Team. I've been doing real estate for about 19 years now, believe it or not, right before the subprime days started. Currently, I have 12 agents, 3 assistants, a couple of transaction coordinators, and a personal assistant. And you're probably like, hey, why a personal assistant? Well, let me tell you the story, the journey. So back in 2007, my brother and me were buying some houses, and we were flipping them. And one day at closing, my brother's like, man, I hate paying this realtor 3% commission. What are you going to do about it? And back in the day, Alan Malawi, I also work at Ford, by the way. And so Alan Malawi just came in, and he's like, I'm going to reduce by 42% headcount. I'm like, crap, man, I need another job. So I got my license, saved us the 3% on all the houses we were flipping. 19 years later, here we are. I end up maintaining my job. But what I realized in real estate is a lot of clients don't want to see houses during the day. And I had more of a 6:30 to 4 job. So I hired a personal assistant during the day to kind of manage my business. And then she kind of gives me the assignments of where I need to go after I get off of work every day. And during that time, I've been able to create a nice, healthy team that I kind of molded to what I wanted, where I wasn't desperate because I always had this other job. So I wasn't desperate to make money. I wanted to create a nucleus that I could grow from and know that they have my back no matter what I do in real estate. So it's been a pretty cool career, to be honest with you. And then, last year I unfortunately got let go after 29 years at Ford Motor Company. And so I've used that to actually, kill it, come out here and use Keller Williams as my battling ground to create a monster. And that's where we're at.
Don't let this guy fool you. So one of the things I wanted to dive into was the mind-blowing experience that I had knowing that he was just continually kicking our ass. And we sat down for lunch one day.
Yep.
And you were doing I think I don't know, 80 million or something in my head. You don't even know the numbers probably, at least he says, right? Yeah. But he's doing a lot of units. I mean, hundreds of houses a year on the team. And we sit down and you talk yeah, I have a full-time job at Ford. And I was I was just so just A, disappointed in myself, B, just amazed to juggle both of it. But you answered some of those questions. My question was going to be how. Yeah. Right. And so the assistant thing seems to be a big part of that.
It was, honestly. And now I've personally had my personal assistant for 10 years last month. Wow. And, I always joke that if you could deal with me during the day, you're golden, right. But she's a pretty amazing person. So shout out to Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal, you must rock because of the fact that like, yeah, to work a full-time job and do the units that you're doing.
Yeah. So it's been good, honestly. And then during COVID, that kind of helped my business. Because now I was stationed in one place. We didn't go into work. So I was able to answer more phone calls when needed. I wasn't forced to be on a facility at Ford Motor Company. And that helped me kind of give my mindset different on growing a team.
When you were at Ford,
Yep.
like what were, obviously these are two completely opposite worlds, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm of the belief, don't take this the wrong way, because you're a living, breathing version of why this is wrong. But on our team, like I say, like real estate is a full-time job.
Yeah.
Real estate is something that if you're a real estate agent or you're a loan officer, you can do it part-time, you can get a couple deals, but to be like the best of the best, to be in tune with the market, to understand what's happening, to truly serve your clients the best you possibly can. I believe it's like a full-time job. And you obviously did that because your reviews are off the charts. So what lessons and takeaways? I mean, Ford is like almost like the example of like corporate America, huge. I mean, hundreds of thousands of employees, right? Obviously it's huge in Michigan, which I wanted to dive into that briefly. I'd like to talk about Dearborn before it's all said and done here.
Yeah,
But,
of course.
But what did you take away from Ford and kind of doing this wild west real estate thing on the side, which is like completely opposite? What lessons did you juggle as you're going?
It's funny you mentioned that, right? So for 3 years straight, I was averaging $25 to $32 million in sales by myself and over 100 units and working at Ford, right? So when you...
Did you guys hear that? Wait. 100 units, 25 million, and people are like, oh, it's like, I don't know, I can't scratch together like 3 million. It's like, because you're doing the work. Anyway, keep going. It's a different conversation.
Yeah. So hindsight, you're like, man, how did you do that and work a full-time job? Honestly, efficiency, right? Efficiency, systems in place. So corporate America taught me how to be efficient, right? It taught me how to create metrics. It taught me how to create spreadsheets, right? Excel, right? We live in the engineering world of Excel spreadsheets. So during that time, I've also taught my assistant. And during that time, we were able to handle what needed to be handled in a timely fashion. And the stuff that did not need to be handled, we'd put it aside, ignore the noise, right? And by doing that, we were able to grow. It really, I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, that's how we did it for those years when I was working at Ford during that whole time period. We just were very efficient, and the people that were serious, we handled them, and the people that weren't serious, we kept them around us, but our follow-ups with them they would eventually come back.
I think there's so many lessons there because that's exactly how I think about the business.
Yeah.
We were talking about this before we sat down. I was at Xerox for a few years before I started in real estate. And it was the same thing. Like Xerox is a huge corporation, right? There's all these, like there's red tape, there's this and that, but the same thing. You're using spreadsheets, using presentations, using systems, using processes. And I think where a lot of people fail, the reason why the Ronnie A Team is having a lot of success is I believe teams are the way of the future. It's not the only way. I believe in the modern world where there's so many hats that real estate agents have to wear. There's marketing and transaction software, and the deals move so fast, and you need to find things.
And the average realtor can't do that.
You can't.
They need that team leader.
So that breakdown of using that corporation to break down a team, it just shows how you're able to execute on it. I think it's a huge takeaway for the people back home, in my opinion. If you're listening to this, watching this, what have you, of like understanding, having repeatable systems and processes, understanding
standards,
what your standards are, and then like you said, removing the noise is so huge.
100%. Like standards. Like I have every team meeting, the first thing I always start off is, how is your organization coming along? And I force my agents to come in every morning not because I want to see their faces, it's because I want them to understand that, hey, come in here, get your calendar up to par, let's do your follow-ups and get out of there. I don't want to see you because if you're in the office, you're not selling houses. So get out. But I want you there every single morning to just organize your day.
Right. And I think that's it. I believe as team leads, our job is to create structured, unstructured world. And people sometimes look at that as like micromanaging. Like you said, you want them to be entrepreneurial. You want them to do their own thing and create their own business. That's the whole point of the job, right?
Absolutely.
But that being said, there needs to be some structure. And a lot of people get in this business for like, work-life balance or whatever it may be. And they don't have no structure. And to find that is very difficult unless you come from that background or thinking about it that way.
So let's circle back to your question, part-timers.
Yes.
Right? So
this is a fun one for me because
I have
it kills me.
3 or 4 part-timers, and the part-timers have full-time jobs.
Right.
And I brought them on because I said I could do it. Why can't you?
Right.
But then as I continued to explore my friends and travel the country and talk to other major agents, it's a big no-no. They don't want you because they're like, if you're not all in, then I don't want you on my team.
Right.
And I think there has to be some kind of median to that because I feel like I could do it why can't you do it, right? So I don't want to hold that against you that you have another job. As long as you're maintaining the integrity of the team
Right.
and your the integrity of yourself, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You could still follow the standards and the processes we have in place. You should be successful.
Right. So if you're meeting those metrics,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And some people are able to do that. Right. So you got to find those select people that are able to do that.
Correct.
My new thing
I'm
regarding,
not encouraging it, Matt, but I'm just saying if you can find those people,
sure,
jump on it.
Because I made that mistake.
Yeah.
So my thing was I've left a lot of talent out there knowing like, I know you'd be great at this, but I'm not cool with this transition period. You got to like jump in full force. And I've let people like not hired or joined forces with teammates that I probably could have. So what we started implementing recently is we're saying, okay, you can do part-time if you can hit the certain metrics. And the second kicker that we have is the goal has to be some type of path to full-time. Like that's what we have. Again, just our way of doing it. And I know that it's always like, different for everyone and stuff, but I love that. That's exactly the key, right? You're creating a game that as long as you play within the rules of this game, then we're fine, right? And
so flip the switch, right? Say I'm a part-timer and I'm surrounded by people that are going to buy houses.
Right.
The idea is you create your own network within your company that you work for and bring your own business.
Right.
So as a team leader, it makes my life a lot easier where I'm not constantly giving you leads. You're bringing your own leads on.
Right.
And then as long as you show the value of being on Matt and Ronnie's team,
yes,
they're not going anywhere. They love it.
Right.
So that's my mindset.
No, I'm like, as we're having this conversation, like my brain is like going a million miles an hour because this has been something I've struggled with a lot.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I draw these lines in the sand that I probably shouldn't because like I've just decided like I have these things. And the reason being is not like the flip side of that is what we see a lot of in this business is part-timers. They don't know what's going on with the market. They have no idea what's happening. Their communication's horrible. They don't represent their clients proper. It makes your job harder. It
100%.
makes the title company's job harder. It makes the lender's job harder. It makes the whole thing comes to a screeching halt because people that don't care do it because they're half pregnant or whatever, right? They're not committed to it, right? And so for me, that's one I've always wrestled with, and I'm going to take this back with me when we leave here to make sure that I'm going to be more empathetic to the situation.
More open-minded. Pick your battles, right?
Right. As you build the team, what was your intention? So you started with the assistant because you had to.
Yes.
And then how did you sort of like scale from there for all the team leaders or potential team leaders out there?
So the rules are, hey, hire a buyer's agent, right? Mm-hmm. Let's get him or her started. And the criteria was a little bit more, I wanted somebody that was a family person. I wanted somebody that has either a wife or a husband or kids. Because I wanted them to be hungry, and that you can't teach that, right? So if they come hungry and they must sell a house to live, it's a little easier for you and I to motivate them, right? And then all the other tools will come, right? So you start with maybe 2 or 3, and then you just continue to grow from there, your nucleus, and then hopefully your nucleus grows to where I'm at now. I have 12 solid agents that all sell over $5 million a piece minimum.
That's great.
So that's my nucleus. And then, eventually we'd like to grow a couple more. But right now I'm completely satisfied with that.
I love what you said. It's like, what's the easiest way to sell something? What's the easiest way to sell food, right? They give the example, like, do you want the best location? You want the best food? You want all this stuff? And really what you want is a hungry crowd.
Yeah.
And so like, in essence, that's the same thing that you just said, right? Is what you want is you want a hungry agent. And we've made that mistake 100 times. Like my whole thing was like, I want to, like this business changed my life. So what I want to do is find people that are really early in their career and then help change their life. Cause I felt like it would be like this rewarding thing. But then I realized I want something for these people they don't want for themselves or they're not ready for yet.
Or they think
they want.
Yeah.
Everyone, so like you sit down an interview. Well, what do you want? Well, I want to take care of my community. I want to take care of my family. I want to take care of myself. I want to that's like, everyone wants those things, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like, are you willing to work 50, 60-hour weeks to get your business off the ground? Like, especially if you're working 2 jobs, then you're working 80 hours a week to get your business off the ground.
Yeah.
Right? Are you willing to do that? And so a lot of people, everyone, in my opinion, one way, shape, or form, almost all people are good or have some good in them, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then like they all want these things, but are they willing to?
And it's our job to pull it, right? Like I literally hired a young single mom recently with 2 girls, high rent, 5 months of experience,
right? And
she's been on my team for 6 months now, and she's my top 4 contributor now in volume.
Right.
And all my guys that have been here are looking around like, how?
Yeah, because she has to.
Because she has to, right? And she's hungry and she's asking the right questions. And my motto is once you meet us, you're not leaving us.
Yeah.
So that's the key to success.
So we were talking earlier. I'm just gonna put it out there. I said something to my team yesterday that kept me up at night last night, and I'll just put it out there. Because I kind of said it came out, and I didn't mean it to sound the way that it sounded, but it kind of ties in with this. I'm just gonna put it out there. Screw it.
Yeah.
So like yesterday, I was talking to my team, trying to get them riled up, and I'm like, okay, like I'll put it this way: if we took all the brokerage's expenses, all the team expenses, we broke it down, and every month you guys had to write a check for that. How would you treat these leads? How would you react for that, right? And so maybe I shouldn't have used that as an example because like my decisions are my decisions and they're part of the organization. I didn't want them to get the wrong idea from it. But for me,
but they have to feel it.
And when I first started, like I didn't have like, I mean, I took a leap of faith from my other job. I had no income other than real estate. I did work part-time for 6 months to be fair. But I took this leap of faith, and not only that, I was running Facebook ads to start my business. So I had debt. I was putting credit card debt, like swiping a credit card to run ads, hoping I could meet people to sell real estate, or I was screwed. So my back against the wall. You have to succeed, and so I think it's almost like you need to get there. And it's not up to us to put them there necessarily. Like we don't want people their back against the wall. It's not the idea, but if they have that mindset. So I love what you said, like family people or something, because they have more people to take care of themselves.
Yeah, but it's okay to use numbers to your team, in my opinion, because they have to understand what you're sacrificing for their success, right? Because otherwise they're just going to think we're just spoiled team leaders, that we make lots of money and we're not investing anything into the business. It's good for them to feel our pain. Like
the risk, the stress, the money, there's so much that goes into being a team lead, broker owner, whatever, especially in the way that we have our team set up, at least from what I can tell from a distance, like we provide a lot for our agents. We provide a lot of leads. We provide a lot of resources, provide a lot of training, tools. We're putting our blood, sweat, and tears into
coaching
these people. So
daily.
And there's a lot of time and energy and money associated with that, right? And so like, again, I don't like necessarily, I'm choosing to do this for whatever reason to be able to make their lives better and to be able to hopefully give to them what was given to me in this business. That's why I love this business. But there is a lot, and I'm so empathetic. And like people that, it's funny, like some of the biggest names in town and some of these people, like even across the country, right? People are like, oh, it's easy for them and this and that. And I'm just thinking like, I'm always so empathetic, whether you're my cup of tea or not, whether you're my flavor of person or not, that's a different situation. But like, I'm always so empathetic because I know, or at least have a taste of what it takes to do that, and the risk and the time and the energy.
You've been on both sides of the world, right?
Yes.
Where you're desperately trying to make money and reach into your pocket and live in that poverty, and now you're making it.
Right.
Now you want to give it back to see them grow.
This business changed my life, and I'm assuming that's why like the team thing was natural for you. You need the team anyway because you're doing both things, but then you're like, hey, this is great. We can help other people. Like the person you just gave the example of.
Yeah.
Like she needed to make this happen.
Yeah.
I'm assuming she can also juggle being a mom.
Oh yeah. She's learning how to do that really quick.
She can do all of that stuff simultaneously and make it happen. And I think that's like such a blessing of this business. But people look at that and think like, okay, that means I can sleep in 11 o'clock and do this. Like it's actually twice the amount of work to get the plane off the ground at least. That's always the analogy that I use with new agents. Like you got to get the plane off the ground.
If you look at my chat, every single morning at 10:31, I do a video. You realize the average realtor starts at 10:30 in the morning, and I just stop it right there. Because if they're not in the office before 10:30, I'm talking to them.
Right.
Because that's the fact.
Yes.
The average realtor starts at 10:30 in the morning. Do you want to be average? I'm okay with that. Just let me know ahead of time so I could set my expectations differently.
Right. There was a statistic a couple years ago. Don't quote me exactly. But something along the lines of, if you work under 30 hours a week, I think it might have been 35 or 30 hours a week, your average income as a real estate agent across the country is like $21,000. If you work over 50 hours a week, your average income as a real estate agent is like $160,000. So like the delta of course it's twice as much work or close to it, but like realistically the delta of looking at it as a full-time career, full-time job and treating it that way compared to like, oh, I'm doing it because I can make my own hours and really tracking. I'm talking real 40, 50 hours, right? This is not like, I'm just like, I think I'm working 50 hours, but I'm on YouTube and Instagram all day. It doesn't count.
But does your mind ever stop, Matt?
No.
Okay. So 50 hours is still an understatement, right? I mean, 7 days a week, vacations, holidays, our minds are spinning. And that's why you and I are sitting here.
Yes.
Right? 100%. We're different. We're built differently when it comes to that kind of attitude.
It's it's like a blessing and a curse. It's like it's like a sickness and a
Your wife will
superpower.
get used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
She'll never like it, but they get used to it.
Right.
So they understand it's what we need to do, and this is how we operate.
Yeah, I've had a couple of the hardest deals in my life this week, actually. And the other day we are supposed to go to a concert, whatever. She's getting ready, and I get this like horrible phone call, and I'm like sitting, and I'm like, I never get to this point. I'm really good at keeping my cool, but I'm like shaking with anger, and I'm like, the fact that this has been a very, very rough deal. But anyway, like needless to say, like it was a little bit of a quiet ride there. Then like we warmed up and whatever, and she's definitely my rock for that because like I'm so empathetic to it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
same
completely
here.
like pivot, then we're going to come back to a little bit more sales stuff if you're cool with it.
Yeah.
So
It's your world.
I really want you to explain what Dearborn, Michigan is to you. I know it's a random question in the middle of this, but I think that Dearborn is one of the most unique places we have here in Michigan. I think it's one of the most unique places in the country. Obviously, you know it as well as anyone. So I just like, what does that mean to you from a real estate world? What does it mean to you as a whole? Working at Ford Motor Company, for those of you who don't know, it's headquartered in Dearborn, and it's a very awesome, unique place. And I'm just curious on how you'd answer that question.
So it all starts with the parents, right? My parents grew up in Dearborn, right? So I bought a house 15 years ago in Dearborn from Dearborn Heights. And downtown Dearborn has bloomed so much over the last 10 years. Like I could have never asked for a better investment in my life from a real estate standpoint. Right. But from a convenience standpoint, we have every type of restaurant. You know, you have anything you want to do. I feel like Dearborn's like our Vegas.
Sure.
Anytime you want something, we're open to 4 a.m. for food. You know, you could do anything you want anytime you want in Dearborn. As far as the culture, I love it because my kids, I like them to be surrounded with, you know, their culture and similar people to them, so they feel comfortable growing up. As far as Ford Motor Company, it was convenient. It was a mile away. So if anything happened, I'm a mile away. Right. My wife works downtown, so it's an easy trip from, you know, Dearborn to, you know, downtown Detroit. But, you know, Dearborn is just something like, it's amazing. Like you have people that are like, oh, I want to move out of Dearborn. And we'll go sell them a house in Northville or Canton. And within 2 years, I miss Dearborn. Bring me back, right? Because there's nowhere else in this country that you could wake up in the morning and if you want fresh bakery food, it's there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Right. You know, if you want nice fresh meat, you could go to the meat markets a mile away and you could barbecue that day. You don't have to buy frozen food and unfreeze it. It's just, it's really hard to explain, Matt, outside of that. But the reality is it's our everything in our eyes. And if you were born and raised in Dearborn, you don't want to leave Dearborn.
Yeah, that's I'm glad I asked you the question because it's like such a fantastic. Like when we did a episode on another YouTube channel, whatever. Anyway, we did this episode, and I'm trying to like explain to you the best I can. We've worked very heavily in there, and I grew up in Plymouth, it's 20 minutes away. Spent a lot of time there through the years, and so but for people from Dearborn, it's its own world in a lot of different ways, and it's really truly unique. And a lot of those places, similar to like a Detroit, like people like across the country have different opinions on Detroit or whatever, and so for me, it's like seeing something from the inside out is such a different experience. And the people are so passionate and appreciative of their city, in my opinion, from that area. So I had to ask you the question.
Like, I love it.
He's from Dearborn. He's a Dearborn agent. Like, I mean, you work a big area, obviously, throughout Southeast Michigan. But but that being said, you know,
my wife has brought it up maybe twice in our 22 years of marriage. Hey, let's go here. But we're not going anywhere. Yeah, I mean, it's just she understands this is where we want to be raised. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Detroit, Dearborn's next city over, Ford Motor Company headquarters. It's right there, Southeast Michigan. I mean, it's just it's a very, very cool place. The food is fantastic. We do some business over there, and we spend a lot of time. We spend a lot of time at restaurants and hanging out with our friends. We got a lot of people over that way. So, so pivoting back to like sales business world. Leadership and sales is my next column here. And so one thing that I like to talk about is how would you describe your selling skills, or what would make your selling skills different than maybe what you see out there?
So it's hard for, so I would start my selling skills is really networking, right? It comes down to the Matt and Ronnie relationship, right? You respect me just like I respect you, but how did I earn that respect, right? It was our first deal. I kept my word. Anything I committed to, it was done. You know, and answering your phone, right? You know, to me, I tell my team, when you answer your phone, and if you can't answer it, as long as you prompt that other person that you got their phone call, that's half the battle in this business, right? It's when you call a listing agent or a buyer's agent and they don't acknowledge that you called them, or you don't respond to them, or I'm going to call you back and you never call them back. To me, that hurts you. It hurts your credibility. As far as sales, I feel like I'm an awesome negotiator. I feel like I'm pretty fair when it comes to negotiating. So I set the right expectations, whether I'm a buyer's agent or a listing agent. And I'm pretty straightforward. I don't like to blow smoke. It's either black or white. I am very to the point where I'm not trying to tell this big, long story, just done.
Sure.
That makes sense?
Yeah, no, I think that's what, from my experience of working together on several deals in the past and stuff like that, I think a lot of the best agents are really good at kind of boiling down the unnecessary stuff and focusing on the stuff that's necessary. And it's a different level of communication when it comes to people that have sold a lot of real estate or have this skill set. And so it's very, very important. I think that's where a lot of, in today's world, a lot of with these changes and NAR and this and that, and they're trying to commoditize this thing that we are.
Yeah.
And there's something to say about keeping deals together and making sure they go smooth. And a lot of that boils down to this certain level of communication that only some people have.
Your professionalism, right? Who you are and understanding.
I don't even have
business.
To like you, but you can, but if you communicate in this way, that's important. The way that we do things, that's how deals are going to happen. That's how everyone's best interest is going to be served. It's very, very important to look at it from that perspective. You kind of hit on this already, but if you were to answer, how do you hire within your organization? Is there, you hit on some of this stuff already, but is there something specific? Like for us, we always focus on humble, hungry, and smart as our three things. So we want you to be humble, right? Which is pretty easy for having a conversation with somebody. We want you to be hungry, which is the hard one to tell. Like you said, unless your back is
they could say it, right? But you got to see it.
That's hard to see that one. And then smart, I look at it as like street smart, which is kind of what we're just talking about. Can you have a real conversation with somebody and sort of be on that level of communication?
It's funny when you say hungry, right? Like you interview and the agent like, I'm really hungry. Can you tell me why?
Yes.
What makes you hungry? Right. Like, what are you going to do differently that makes you so hungry? And they're like, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, so at Keller Williams, we have this 30, 60, 90 thing where in 30 days, man, I'll hire you, but here's my expectations in 30 days. And then we're going to revisit them. And then in 60 days, this is where I expect you to be. And then in 90 days, this is where we're going to cut you loose and you're going to be on the team if you met the 30, 60 qualifications. And I really do hold my team accountable for that. Yes. So it's really minimum liability for me the first 90 days because you're not going to get the exposure of the Ronnie A team, but you're going to be part of the Ronnie A team. Sure. So you're going to be doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. You're going to go out there and cold call. You're going to establish who you are. And then I will determine if you are hungry, right? And at that point, I would be able to tell if you're part of our team.
So it's almost this test period.
100%.
Like we're going to test the waters here before we jump in.
Yeah, because I really look at our team as a privilege to be on our team.
Right.
It's an honor.
I think so.
It's not like we're just hiring anybody to be on our team. Yes. So that's how I feel about hiring people.
Yeah, with the I think that's like, we do a 30, 60, 90 too, but like kind of implementing some of those expectations, I think is critically important. One of my mentors, David Hall, big mortgage guy, a lot of people know who that is. David's been really good to me through the years, but a long time ago when I first started building a team, I said like, what do you recommend for hiring and within your organization, how you do it? And he said something similar of like setting like the right expectations right away is huge. And it's easy not to, right? Because you get the right people or you get someone, you like them a lot, and you think they're gonna be okay. And you're like, they might be fragile. So you're trying to like make sure they're comfortable and you're trying to like, you're a good person, right? So you want to treat them right and like homie and you're welcome to the team and all this stuff. But then they get this like false conception of what reality is. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the thought process going into it, they're gonna hold that true. So I think it's super, super important. Another thing I want to ask about is about coaching. So this kind of overlaps. Yeah. Have you done real estate coaching? What are your thoughts about like general like coaching in the business? You do a lot of coaching for your team, I'm sure, but how does that look?
So I do. And not being at Ford has given me a lot of opportunity to listen to a lot more audibles, read a lot of books, attend different, motivational speakers all around the country. And I take little bits and pieces from that. And my coaching is daily, right? Whether it's a morning video, whether it's my team coming in and I'm like, huddle up, let's, here's what's going on. Or, hey, I just talked to Matt today and here's what he's seen. So here's what I want you guys to start doing. So to me, my coaching hat is 24/7. Like even my videos that I broadcast, a lot of them are coaching tips for the realtors, for buyers agents, for listing agents. I don't want to hold myself down to just thinking this. I like to look at it holistically and look at everybody as an opportunity to coach to be better.
Yeah, I like that. One thing that I've been picking up the last year or so that I wasn't that good at. So I'm so obsessed with like real estate and business that I'm trying to take other things
Yes.
to like overlay into my coaching and my leadership. So I would read like, okay, I'm a leader. So I'm gonna read leadership books, and like
Yes.
leadership stuff and like business stuff, and you get
How
excited.
to communicate, how to motivate, right? That's not real
Yeah.
estate. That's
Right.
just in general, right?
Right.
That's our role as leaders, right? It's not always about real estate and buyers agents. Listen to me, so you want to keep your mind open because you want to stay entertaining at the same time for people to watch you and listen to you.
Yeah, I think it's super super important, which leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
You said entertaining, so that's one trait. What other traits do you believe good leaders have?
Confidence. I think people follow confidence. Say this whole NAR settlement, right? My team is not rattled at all because I'm not rattled. And they see it and they hear us talk about it. They know that I have their best interest to continue to be successful. And regardless of what comes at us, we're going to be successful.
I think that's 100% right. It truly is very interesting to hear that from you because not only are you unbelievably confident, right? Because you're like also has that humble side of you too, which like I think people don't really get that. They think confidence is always like this cocky, like ego world.
Yeah.
And like you can have
He's an ass, stay away from him. Yeah, he's hard to talk to. Yeah, I love those people, by the way. And then when you get them, like you'll sit down and have coffee with them, like, you're actually a really nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I like the confidence jerk side of me.
Yeah, go back to that one.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't want to be a nice guy.
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. But I think that's a huge takeaway because I think a lot of people, hopefully listening to this, might have that more humble side or reserved side or whatever it may be. And just because like you're that way in a certain aspect doesn't mean you can't learn something really. Whether it's selling real estate, whatever your skill that you're trying to learn.
And everybody's got different leadership skills, right? Like my wife's a vice president of a major corporation in HR, and her leadership skills are totally opposite of mine. She's more the generous, let's talk about it. Right. Let me give you some coaching nicely, right? I'm more of the confidence. You got to do this. You got to do this. This is how I would approach it. So it's pretty fun in our house when it comes to our leadership skills and talking about how we're going to take care of our kids.
Kids are getting the best of both worlds.
Yes, absolutely.
I think I'm that same way. I didn't realize how direct I was until I started running the team. I'm like, because you're trying to protect them, right? Same with parenting. I don't have kids yet, but you're like, I've gone through this 100 times. This is what you need to avoid. This is why, and it's impossible for me not to say it. And I think sometimes I need to like, actually on my phone, my background right now says listen.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes need to shut up and like, but I don't want them to run into the brick wall that they're running into. You know what I mean? The train's going towards a brick wall and I'm like, no, don't, like, this is and so I got to probably chill out by the time I'm a parent. So I don't do that for them as well too. Cool. Anything else that you would like to leave the people with back home as we wrap up here?
You want to talk numbers?
Sure.
Let's talk numbers because I really want to talk about my journey with my team, right?
Yes.
So I mean, 5 years ago, I said, hey, I'm going to start a team and I'm going to go work for Keller Williams because that's where I originated my career. And then I went to Remax and came back to KW because they're known as the teams. Mm-hmm. So when we started, our first year, I think it was like $13 million. Then we went to like 40. Then we went to 70.
Woo!
Yeah. And then last year we hit $96 million, right? And so this year's goal is $102 million. And it's like, you could just throw numbers on the wall, but unless you have a plan to execute it, that's the complicated part, right? So this year's goal is 102. And we are actually well on pace for that.
Congratulations.
Pretty excited about it because we want to be the first $100 million team in our tri-city area to hit that. Mm-hmm. And to do that and to have 450 units closings last year and not have zero complaints is an honor to be part of the Ronnie A team, right? Zero complaints, Matt. So that takes a lot of pride from me. But it teaches you that you're actually implementing the ethics that you want your team to have and the reputation to have Matthew Talbot call me and say, hey, let's do a podcast because you have respect for me for what we bring to the table. So to me, I take a lot of pride in that.
Yes. Your success is insane to me. Your personality is awesome. Your team, everyone I've dealt with has been great. I was so excited to have you on the show for so many reasons.
Thanks.
And you hit the nail on the head right there, because you're thinking about it from the right perspective. We have no complaints. If we have all positive reviews, if we continue to grow in this aspect, we're doing something right.
Right.
And so if we focus on the things that we're already doing, we'll be just fine. We'll continue to grow. And I think make a difference in our communities, right? So when that happens, that means that real estate agents are professionals. That means that people are taken care of. Like
your clients are happy.
That's rare. Like that is rare in this business to do that type of volume.
We take a lot of pleasure in making our clients happy, right? Just like you, and growing our brand.
One of my biggest pet peeves is like pulling up brokerages or teams, and you look at their like Google reviews, and it's like, and they have these horrible Google reviews, and I'm like, that's just like fingernails on a chalkboard to me, because like it's like what I'm obsessed about. And so the fact that that's like, as you're growing and as you're doing that, you're like, if I focus on this metric as we grow, we'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because like I'm sure you could probably cut corners and get to 125 or 150 million this year with like the right people. You know, you could add a bunch of people and just and like put maybe a couple more bucks in your pocket, but then those reviews go down, right? So it's very apparent how you've scaled this team and where you guys are going. I'm so excited to continue to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to hopefully continue to work deals together, because I love working with you guys.
Same.
And thanks so much for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate
you guys.
And we'll be in touch. Where can people find you back home? We can wrap up there.
You can call me or my website.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the RonnieAteam.com.
Got it. RonnieAteam.com. Yeah. There's some social stuff. We're seeing some videos coming out.
Instagram's out there.
There's some stuff coming
Facebook,
out. So
TikTok. So just like you, trying to keep up with you.
Stay tuned with Ronnie's stuff. Great guy, great organization. Thanks so much for checking out today's episode.